Hello, potential TCNJ students. My name is Jack Deegan, and welcome to the Unauthorized Guide to TCNJ. In this interview, you'll be hearing from Vanessa Jimenez, the admissions counselor of first-year recruitments here at the college. She has a lot of valuable information on what to do, what not to do, and some very important insights you might want to look out for when coming to the school. I hope you enjoy. What are you personally in charge of? What do you
Cool.
control in the admissions area?
Awesome. So I am the ambassador coordinator in the admissions office. So I am the direct supervisor for the ambassadors, which means I'm responsible for the training, hiring, and like the continual booking of ambassadors. I also support in multicultural recruitment events that we do on campus, either the events that we host or in recruiting actual multicultural students. I travel to different high schools for fairs or just for individual visits where I can talk to students in like a class about TCNJ in general. And then I read applications throughout the months of like November to March, where we make decisions. I don't make a final decision. I kind of make like a general review of an application, and then it goes up to the next person who will approve or deny if that decision is correct. So that's kind of what I do.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot.
Ambassadors, that's like the people who will give tours and stuff on campus. Okay,
Yes.
so that whole process with the tours, what is that whole thing like? Do you set them up, or are you just in charge of getting the people in place?
So essentially how tours work is we host tours on campus 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And in the beginning of every semester, we essentially ask the ambassadors to pick the days of the week that work best for them and the hours that they will always be available for. And then they pick the days that they specifically want to work for the semester. Because we're always, essentially on those days, we'll always have tours on campus.
Yeah.
Mondays and Wednesdays, we have group tours. So we also kind of have ambassadors prepare for those days. We don't always get a group that actually shows up, but we'll always have ambassadors kind of scheduled for that just in case. And that's essentially how they're scheduled for tours on campus. We just go in with the mentality of these are the days we always have tours. We post them online for people to register for them. And then once we see what the count is, we just make sure that the number of ambassadors we need are available for the day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So then my next question was, when you're touring students or when you're interviewing them or looking for applications, what is the biggest thing you're looking for in a student here?
Great question. So holistic is a great word in admissions that I do think that we try to stick to as much as possible. But I will say that the thing that kind of bases the most of our decision is a student's transcript. So the kinds of classes they took in high school, did they try to challenge themselves by taking honors and AB courses? If they're interested in a math and science field, did they take up to pre-calc? It's not a requirement, but it's definitely something that we prioritize. Students who have taken or who are interested in an English or humanities field, did they take AP or honors classes related to those majors? That's really where we're making the bulk of our decision. We check the rank information if the school provides it to us. And then we can see the highest GPA from that high school and where does that student lie compared to that GPA. So yeah, while we do take everything else into account as well, I'll look at how much interest you've shown. Have you attended events on campus? Did you reach out and tell us that you're really interested? Did you fill out the why TCNJ question with more than a sentence? Or we check students' letters of recommendation for sure. We are reviewing what clubs and organizations they've done. But I would say that the bulk of our decision, if you're admissible, will be based off of the transcript. The rest of it is kind of just cherries on top for reasons why we should accept you over somebody else who might have a similar transcript.
That makes sense. Just people who go above and beyond if it's you're going between two different people.
Exactly, yes.
That makes sense. So once someone does get that offer, they're admissed to the school, and then they're getting through the whole admissions process, what is the biggest way to try and prepare someone to actually come to TCNJ versus any other school?
Great question. So I would say coming to visit the campus and starting to connect with either professors within the major that you're interested in or students that you might know from your hometown. In the summer, orientation happens throughout, I believe, a 2-week period. that I think is a great start for students to come back to campus, take another tour, because the campus can be confusing for someone who's only
Yeah.
visited once or twice. It's also a day to connect again with students on your floor or from your class that are coming to help feel a little bit more connected to the campus. There are some summer programs that we do technically. So like Leadership hosts like a week, I think, in August that students can participate in. Um, there are other like leadership based activities that happen in August that students can participate in. They're either invited, or if they look it up and find it, they
Yeah.
reach out to ask to apply. So I'd say any chance you get to campus and to connect with people on campus will help make a smoother transition for you in the fall.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because I think I took like one tour and then I went to like a community college, and then I came here, and I definitely was lost for like the first week because I kind of skipped that for myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that. It's a hard transition for most people to go to college because it's very different from any prior experience you've ever had. So,
yeah, it's a big jump.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is something that you think every student coming to TCNJ should know that they might not?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked that. Let me see. Think about it. I think something that all students should know that they don't always, because this is something I didn't really know, is the importance of taking on every opportunity you possibly can while you're here. There's this misconception that there's so much time or that like some things are more important than others, but there's so many resources on campus that I wish I would have utilized, like the tutoring center. I wish I utilized it way more, or the Center for Student Success. Those advisors are awesome, and I never went to a meeting there once. But had I, maybe I would have had other options in terms of employment or other options on campus. I think we get comfortable here at TCNJ with professors kind of giving things to us that I don't think we put ourselves out there enough. And I'd hope that students came into TCNJ wanting to put themselves out there and connect with every office on campus if it's possible, because there's always somebody to meet that can support you in some capacity that you're not thinking about.
Yeah, that's a really good answer.
Yeah, thank you.
That also ties in with one of my next questions, which was like, do you think that students properly utilize all the resources here on campus?
I don't think enough. I think that they properly utilize the ones that they know of, or the ones that are more directly related to like the things that they do every day. But there are a lot of offices on campus that I knew of but never really utilized, because it didn't necessarily affect me in the moment. I wasn't thinking ahead, I was thinking about my time here at TCNJ and what I want to do now. And if I went back, I would have made a lot better decisions, I think.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, at least from my experience, if I'm not like directly needing to go somewhere, I kind of don't really go out of my way to go to these other offices, where now in like my last semester, I'm starting to realize, oh, the career center has all these people and there's all these different advising things that I just never looked into.
Yeah, and I think that's common for all college students, really.
Yeah.
But especially here at TCNJ, I think we have such a strong community that we could, as students, do better connecting with the people that are in it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in your experience, like working all these people and students, what do you think is like the biggest mistake or something that students should avoid that they often do in that first like advising, or when like they're coming to the school, like that first chunk when they first get here?
I think the biggest mistake is assuming that you can do it by yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our students come with strong academic backgrounds, and so the assumption is, I got this, which is great. It's awesome to have confidence, but TCNJ is a different animal. Our classes are a unit for a reason, because it can be challenging, and I think that the more help you ask for, the smoother again your transition into college will be. Because if you try to just do it on your own and figure it out by yourself, it only pushes you back and forces you to work 10 times harder than you'd have to if you just asked for the help that you needed.
Yeah, it definitely, you got to ask for help. You can't, I mean, it's hard to do this whole thing alone and just kind
Hmm.
of stick to yourself
For
because it,
sure.
it is a completely different beast.
Yeah, and I think in the world of post COVID or still COVID, that's even more true. I think students are even more secluding themselves
Yeah.
versus reaching out for the support that they need. And I think that's going to be harmful in the long run. And or again, put up obstacles that don't have to be there if you would just ask for help.
Yeah, that's definitely true. After like 2 years of having to really be isolated, now that everything's finally open, you might as well use the resources and talk to people.
For sure.
And you kind of just touched on it there, but what is your biggest advice that you give to new students coming to the school?
Biggest advice. I mean, definitely reaching out to resources. I think just trying anything and everything that you can possibly try. I regret like not studying abroad or not going to more events hosted on campus. I regret not connecting with students outside of who I normally would connect with. Like I wish I
Yeah.
had pushed myself a little more to do things that were in my comfort zone, because now as an adult, I am doing those things and wish I would have had more practice during my college time. So I guess just putting yourself out there and taking advantage of all that TCNJ has to offer.
Yeah, that's definitely it's definitely a good idea to
Yeah.
do. I definitely know that because like all of my classes I've had here in this school, because I'd had all my prerequisites done at a community college, have been inside one building. So I never even like really get to go
To
other
the other
places and
buildings.
see other people who are in other classes and mingle and mix with other people unless I actually go out of my way to an event or a different thing that would put you out of that comfort zone.
For sure. Yeah. And that's how it is on campus sometimes. You get kind of siloed to what you are doing. You forget to kind of branch off. And I think freshman year is a good year to probably participate in more of
Yeah.
that. For transfers, I totally understand where it's a little bit more challenging. But it's about putting yourself in those spaces. Not everyone will provide that opportunity for you. You kind of got to go after it yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's all good. And then my last question is just basically what you brought up earlier with the multicultural. What was it called again?
Multicultural recruitment.
Multicultural recruitment. So I don't really know much about that. I just kind of want to hear like more about that
Sure,
because
sure.
I feel like that's a big thing that we don't talk about much, but I think that's a huge asset that could be interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. So the way that the college defines multicultural student is someone who identifies as Black, African American, or Latino American, or Latinx. That's kind of how we've defined the term multicultural. And so, in efforts to recruit students of color, essentially, we go to predominantly underrepresented schools or districts to recruit students. And there are a few opportunities that we provide to support those students, whether it be EOF, which is like a financial aid / advising opportunity for students on campus. That could be through the Pride Mentorship Program, which is for students who don't qualify for EOF but are still students of color who could use some extra support. They also support students that aren't students of color, but it's primarily like a mentorship program for students of color on campus. And then we also provide what's known as a chairman of the board scholarship. That technically anyone can really qualify for, but we prioritize multicultural students or students from underrepresented backgrounds to qualify for this scholarship. It's essentially a merit award that we offer just by reviewing your application. You don't have to do an extra application. But that's another way to kind of help offset some underrepresented minority backgrounds into getting to college. So yeah, that's what we do. And we have a few members on our staff who read those applications specifically because we do so through the lens of this school district might not have had all of the opportunities and resources that like West Windsor might have. But that doesn't mean that these students aren't capable or able to come here. So that's essentially what multicultural recruitment is. I'm more so on the support side of that. So I still do recruit in those high schools and read applications. But we do have an assistant director of multicultural recruitment whose entire role is around designing events or finding ways to better recruit students of color that we might not have tried in the past.
That's very cool. Thank you. I didn't know anything about that. That'll be very interesting to put more research into and
For sure.
talk about to people.
Yeah.